Do you wish you could get virtual attendees to turn their cameras on? Is engagement the number one issue on your virtual meetings? Do you want your meeting to be the most engaging virtual meeting? Well, welcome to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. In this podcast, we'll talk to the top people around the world in virtual meetings and give you, the listener, the best ideas to host engaging virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Now, let's welcome your host, the author of the #1 Amazon hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings, John Chen. All right. Good morning or afternoon for all those who are checking out this Engaging Virtual Meeting podcast with your host, John Chen. I just got back from LA and I got to give a shout out to my very good friend, Keith Streckenbach, who owns Pharmacy Stars. And he invited me. I got this email, right? So this is kind of a good story. I did a referral program, which is I take my top 100 clients. I gave them a package. It was like in the holiday season. And I said, it's better to give than to receive. So will you do me a favor and give this package to, a client that you thought about that you really like or might want something better in their virtual or hybrid. And I get an email from Keith, one of my top 100 clients, and he goes, "Hey, John, can you come to LA next week?" And I'm like, sure, let's do that. And so it turns out he had a ticket to a program. He's a member of a program with somebody named Jay Abraham. And if you don't know Jay Abraham, he's been a marketer to Tony Robbins and many other people, right? Very famous consultant. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of a no-brainer. Like, I need to get to LA. So I get to LA, and I was only supposed to be invited to one day of the program. And they were kind enough he asked, and he said, can John stay a little longer? He's going to fly from Seattle. And so they let me stay in this program, and it was unbelievable. Made so many great connections with people. Like, I met the guy who's the #1 salesperson for Peking duck in America. Right? So a really cool entrepreneurial piece, and really gave me some new ideas. I want to test this one idea for you who are on my podcast. Right? What if you are selling virtually? What if you could sell 20% more with your team who's selling virtually? If you're interested in that, do me a favor, smash the button and reach out to me. I can show you how to do that. So the other cool thing I saw too is something called Proto, P-R-O-T-O. If you haven't seen it, Howie Mandel is an investor in the company, a spokesperson, but it allows you to teleport a full body image of yourself to anywhere in the world. Watch my social media for a clip for that. So I'm just returning from LA, and I didn't get any direct business from this referral program, but I got this instead, and it's almost more valuable. So for all of you who are thinking like, how can we sell more? Think about, your referral program. How are people referring to you? And number 2 is, I'm so excited for 2024 and what's happening. I look forward to all the opportunities that are here. So anyways, that's my report. And coming up next, we have this gentleman. His business philosophy is simple. He says it's to attract, convert, and deliver. I met this gentleman on Coffee with Janine. If you haven't seen Coffee with Janine, you got to get there and hang out. And let's bring up the one and only Jeff Borschowa. Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Awesome, John. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. I love that we got a chance to meet in Coffee with Janine, which was one of my other friends, Matt. I think Matt Roseman referred me to Coffee with Janine, and I have not heard of that show beforehand, and so I loved jumping into other people's networking pieces, because especially now too that they've been long running, it's been more than a year, and people have found what works for them. And I'm always curious to see that. So welcome to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Do us the favor, for my friends who don't know you, tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I love it. Well, I'll give you the short answer. I am a ghostwriter, and what I do is I help businesses, especially experts, tell their story through written word like books and workshops. So I love at the heart of it, I am a connector, and I love bringing amazing human beings together. And as my tagline is, I bring them together and I get out of the way and let them do their magic.
Speaking of magic, Jeff, Have you ever heard of this thing called the Magic Castle in LA?
I have not. I feel like that's a story to hear.
Yeah. So I met this gentleman online too. We're going to theme our show a little bit about online networking. That I got referred to this gentleman online because he is a professional magician and he really invested hard to convert his magician show to virtual. So two people thought together and like, oh, you two need to know each other. So we met online, and it turns out he's the member of something called the Magic Castle in LA. And the Magic Castle is a private club for magicians. Like you have to audition to become a member by showing magic, and if your magic's not good enough, they won't let you in. And then once you're part of the Magic Club, what happens almost every night is that they have new magicians who are residents in this place, and you can go and have dinner or appetizers, and there are multiple magician shows running in all different places in this place that's a castle that is literally near Grauman's Theater, which apparently is not called Chinese Grauman Theater anymore, but it's in Hollywood. And it was so mind blowing to see some of these top magicians. Like I'm an extrovert, Jeff. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like the first extrovert you're ever gonna meet, and it was overwhelming for me because there are so many things happening. It's like a Vegas for magicians. They have small spaces as small as like 8 or 10. One of the bars has a magician behind it who looks like a bartender, but he's doing bar magician. And then they have like big theaters. And so we got the first time many of us got a chance to visit there. We had a group of 6 that went on Saturday, and it was one of the coolest experiences in that. One of the other high points too, Jeff, is that they have a members only library.
Mm,
And the members only library has a whole bunch of out of print and very hard to get magician books.
wow.
And that's part of the Magic Castle.
That sounds like a place that would be fun to hang out and to experience that. I honestly believe that more businesses need to inject magic into what they do. I call it white glove service, but there should be that ooh wow, you know, and just total tangent, but my family, we went and watched New Year's Eve fireworks, and it was funny because while everybody's waiting for the fireworks, everybody's complaining about the cold, and then the minute the fireworks, silence, and then you hear these spontaneous gasps of ooh ah. Why don't we do that in business?
Yeah, why don't we do that more? As part of the trip too, we did an escape room, right? Have you ever done an escape room, Jeff?
Yeah, I've done a few of those.
So this one was called The Heist, and it kind of had like an art theme with it. And that ooh ah moment was we did something and it turned on a laser. And the laser hit a mirror and then hit a spot on the wall. And what you had to figure out, and I was kind of cool because I had the mirror in my hand, is that you had to take a mirror that was in the floor in the other place, take it to the other room, put it on a little like a pedestal, like something that was hanging, a shelf on the wall, and aim it at a statue that had a red jewel in the top. And when it hit the red jewel, the laser hit the red jewel on the top, you hear a pop and a light turns on a piece of art that gave you the next clue. And the whole group spontaneously goes, rah, right? It's like Mission Impossible, meets,
Yeah,
um, oh, come on, what's the Amazing Race, right?
an amazing race. Yeah.
All that put together.
And that's, you'd clearly go to better class of escape rooms. Mine, it's usually you find a key that unlocks something, and it's like, oh, okay, that was underwhelming.
So that this key and this laser is kind of like the business piece, right, Jeff?
Yeah,
Like we
yeah.
give the key to something like you do a piece of service and it's done, right? Because we're in the end, we're all still trying to do business. But
Hmm.
there's this other time when you use a laser for it and the crowd goes wild.
Yeah,
The Seattle Fish Market here in Seattle is very much like that, Jeff, which is they're just doing something, they're selling fish.
yeah.
But it's now,
That's
one of the most popular training videos of all time was saying, how do you take mundane jobs and turn them into something exciting, into a wow?
yeah. And there's a book, I think it's called The Fish Philosophy,
Yeah, right.
and I just literally it's like, okay, I got to go to Seattle and go, I went to the fish market years ago,
Yeah.
and I wasn't looking at it from, it was just I wanted a piece of fish. So I was looking for fish. Now I'd go back and just sit and watch the show for the day. Like, and again, it's the fact that I would travel that far to watch people throwing fish around. I mean, that should tell you a lot about their experience.
Yeah, yeah. And for those who haven't gone there, and if you did come to my town, Jeff, one of the things I would do for you as your host, right? As you're my guest, I would bring you there, right, and tell you like we'd order something and tell you get behind the counter. So here's what happened: you get behind the counter, and they got probably a 20 to 40, 30 pound fish, and they'll throw it at you. And even if you drop it, they'll keep throwing it at you until you get it. You become part of the show. And the whole group, like everyone is standing around. The people stand around a fish market to watch
Yeah.
because it's hilarious. It is fun. It's engaging. It's all those things. And they're still the masters at doing it. And that's what you get because when you're on the other side, and what I do is I give you a slow motion video of you catching this fish or dropping the fish. Like sometimes the better video is when you drop the fish because you're like, no, right? There's nothing. I don't know why. There's nothing more engaging with that. So
Well,
how do you bring WoW to business, Jeff? I'm kind of curious about what's one of the ways you bring WoW.
I think the first thing I would say is that the fish market is very much a metaphor for virtual meetings. You want to make it wow. And I think for me, I used to work at a big software company, and they said fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And I liked that, but when I left, I translated it to fall in love with your customer, not your product. And what I found delivering wow is just really truly, and by the way, if your customers aren't big enough that you care about them, maybe you need to rethink your business model. But I personally think that every business should care deeply about their customers. I'm not here to help the bulk stores and things like that get better, but the average bricks and mortar business, the number one thing you can do to wow them is have an amazing onboarding experience so that you get to know who they are, what they need, and basically have a feedback loop where you're always seeking how else can we add value to them. And one of my big beliefs in life, I would rather, and you posed the question at the beginning, if you could get 20% more in sales, my question is if you could earn 20% more from each existing customer
Ooh,
and you could get
right.
20, there's a compounding effect, right?
Yeah, and it's easier.
Yeah. And
It's
it's cheaper.
It's cheap. Yeah, I mean, all business ends up having this. I'm a user of Salesforce.com, so I've got like now almost 20 years of sales data, and this logarithmic pattern
Yeah.
shows up, which is your top clients, right? Give you 80% of your business. We've kind of heard this 80/20 rule,
Yep.
and your top clients. It's much easier to, right, to get another dollar out of your existing client who knows you and trusts you than it is
Yeah.
to go get a new one.
Yeah. And it honestly, I'm just going to say that not delivering wow is lazy. A lot of people think, oh, it's too much effort. But the reality is, if you look at the lifetime value of a customer, and if it's tens of thousands of dollars, why wouldn't you spend $100 here, $200 there? One of my big source code books for that is John Ruhlin's book Giftology,
Hmm.
but identify what your customers want and find ways to just deliver that wow. Because when you deliver wow consistently, they spend more money with you, they stay with you longer, and magically they bring their friends to the party. So you want it to be fun. I know a lot of accountants. I work with a lot of professionals in the accounting space, and they model their waiting rooms after something like you'd see at a dentist or a proctologist's office. Nobody wants that. It should be fun. There should be a TV, there should be magazines, current magazines. It just a waiting room is the first place, and whether that's virtual or in person, that's the first touch. How could you make that fun? And if you haven't had a meeting with John, I encourage you to have one, because his waiting room, he has a video. Um, I'm first to admit that my Zoom waiting room is just a picture of me saying, "Hey, I'll be with you in a second." I need to update that piece. But think about every time somebody's experiencing your business, and instead of giving them that sort of plain pine box feel to it, what could you do to make it, have a little magic? John has butterflies in his background. Why wouldn't you have a little bit of fun instead of, just a plain boring wall? Or, I have a wall of books behind me. I got tired of looking at them too. Make it something where people feel like you value them.
Hmm. Yeah, and we were just talking about this background. I chose this background today for Jeff because he's saying, like here in Seattle, right? We hit a new low, 12 degrees Fahrenheit, which is probably not a low for you, but it's a low for us. It was like a record low. It's freezing out. Actually, one of my pipes who had never frozen before froze today. So we're trying to actually heat up one of these rooms today. But I did this for him. He goes, "Oh, what about something warm? What about something tropical?" And he goes, "Ooh, I like that. I like the butterflies, right?" So the best part too, hopefully Jess has got the, unconscious or conscious message that John's listening and willing to respond to change his environment for me. That waiting room here, I'm going to go back to Jeff. Those who don't know, you can stick an image, which Jeff puts you immediately in the top 20%, by the way.
Yeah.
Because every 80% of the world has left the blue advertisement for Zoom. And by the way, it's great, but Zoom has got a lot of money compared to you.
Yep.
They don't need that advertising, but they get it. So why not do something that changes people's perspective even before they get into your meeting? And that's with
Yeah.
the waiting room. So the waiting room, like when you think about, Jeff is thinking about business as experience, which is great too. By the way, one of my friends got to interview Joe Pine, who's one of the two authors for the book, The Experience Economy.
Ooh.
And those people, that book was one of the cores of when I developed my company. Now it's 37 years ago. Is that I based a lot of the things in my company around that book, and I got a chance to interview them once, and they are still out consulting around this about saying, create an experience.
Yeah.
And this waiting room is the first part of the experience. You need to think from the experience from top to bottom. Many companies are looking at the customer journey and saying, how can we make each of these parts easier, better, entertaining, delightful, so forth and so on. So those are all the things. And by the way, you can do that. So you can stick almost any picture or video. Slideshow is the easy one I tell people if you're not good at video, is put a slideshow of like things like that. And cool crafty stuff that somebody else did, Jeff, was that somebody put a meditation video in there.
Oh, nice.
And they said, why don't you take a breath from your workday right before you join my meeting?
Well, just think about the reaction to somebody who, first of all, spent, again, no offense to Zoom. I spend 1 minute staring at that screen. I'm antsy, and it's like, where the heck is he? Or, oh, isn't that nice? John gave me a little meditative room. And that just, again, it shows you care. I'll give you one of my other favorite resources when I talk about wow. Read the book by Steve D. Sims. It's called Blue Fishing. And he's got another one, I think it's called Go for Stupid or something. They're both on my must read list for my clients. What he does in Blue Fishing is he talks about doing the impossible and making it a wow experience. One of his examples that he shares in the book is he had a client, obviously this is a big client, and to reward their loyalty, they got him a private concert at, I think it was the Vatican, with some famous opera singer.
Hmm.
And, he made the impossible happen by helping other people achieve their dreams. And my 2 cents, most businesses focus on how can I do this cheaply. So wow is the opposite of cheap. And by the way, when you're looking at your offering and saying, okay, do I take away the paper clip and, I can make this cheaper if I only print on 2 sides of the page and I reduce the font, that's not a fun conversation for anyone. Whereas if you say, what would we have to do to be able to deliver a client proposal in a satin bound book?
Yeah.
Just imagine your proposal, it's delivered in a leather bound journal rather than, looks like somebody printed it on the way over and the print is sort of, because we don't want to waste money on printers. We're going to keep it cheap and somebody's printing it on their desk in black and white because why spring for color? So for me, wow is about what would I have to do to make this an amazing experience? And the final example I'll give you is the Disney franchise. Everything they do is how do we make a wow experience?
Yes.
You're never going to get told, sorry, not my department, or I don't know. Their cast and crew, they take good care of their guests.
I give out a shout out to my friend Kaz Takeda, who worked for Disney and shared many of some insider things that he didn't know about how to create how much length they go to make that experience, right? All right. Speaking of experiences, there is a big myth out there that says you can't network on virtual, and I just want to hear what Jeff has to say about that.
John, that is my favorite myth to bust. And in full disclosure, one of the things I heard, and sorry, this is most appropriate. I hope you don't mind this, but I do need to be on the soapbox for this. When COVID shut down the world, everybody told me networking is dead. And it was just said with such certainty, and they were like, okay, how do we get better at all these other things? And the second thing I heard was you can't network on Zoom. And I am stubborn. I've heard many different adjectives. We'll just go with stubborn. People that tell me I can't do something, my brain is that natural little stubborn mule, said, oh yeah, let's try it. And what I found was that discovering Zoom, and for the record, I talk about Zoom a lot because I think I signed up. Employee number 12 was my person, and I don't remember the person. I do remember the number because 12 is a number that comes up a lot in my world. So I've been on Zoom a long time, and I thought to myself, my first reaction, John, was, okay, networking is what I do. I can't not network. So how do I make it work? And I started from the hypothesis I had was that networking on Zoom is not as good as networking in person. I was willing to accept that. And then the question was, how less effective is it? And my starting assumption was it was 80% as good as networking in person. So that was kind of my first thought was, okay, well, if it's 80% as effective, that's what I'm giving up is that 20%. But what I gained was the fact that I could go further, I can have more conversations. Literally, I went global overnight, and that was my big lesson was just because you can be global doesn't mean you should. I was up at 2 a.m. doing conferences in China. You know, I had clients in Australia. I had some in South Africa, Europe. It was exhausting. And now I only work in pretty much the North American time zone. But the reality was I recognized some real advantages to networking on Zoom, and that made me want to get better at it. Number one, I no longer had frequent flyer miles that I could use on anything. I wasn't wasting my life and my time in airplanes and traveling. Number two, I wasn't wasting time in my car going to live networking events. And number three, I met some really amazing people who got it. And that was my big aha moment is if somebody doesn't get it, and I love that John also has his own soapbox. So
I wrote that down as a tip going, I'm going to make a real soapbox virtual background, right?
I also have a preaching to the choir virtual background. But
I want to
that's
see it. I want to see it now. Give it
oh,
to me. Why not? Jeez.
sorry, I'm teasing you. Oh, speaking of magic,
Oh,
I
wait, you got
have
to lean
oh,
left or right. There you go.
there we go. Sorry, I'll
That
get out of
trick
the way.
never works, Jeff.
And then, of course, if people want to know where I am, and if
Mhm.
we got some feedback, where did my choir go? Here it is. So the thing about Zoom is you can be a child, you can have fun, and you can get deals and business done. But that was my big observation when people said, okay, networking is dead. We all know that that wasn't the case. We all know that, networking did grow. BNI has adapted. They have all virtual events now. And I've seen so many amazing people. One thing I would say is that networking on Zoom is hyper efficient and it's beautiful because it takes an hour. I love that. You don't have to waste hours and hours getting there. I used to go to networking events and we're children. Oh, look at that. John
And
singing
then
for the choir.
I could be I could be Whoopi Goldberg. How good is that?
That is amazing. But
Ah,
with Zoom, John and I have never met in person. We met once before. We're having fun today. I would argue that Zoom networking is 110% more effective. So
yeah,
my hypothesis was 80%. I'm going to say 110. And back to John's comment about, if you could close 20% more deals, I've been in the sales world, and number one, as a salesperson, number two, as a sales leader, I would be ecstatic if I could close 20% more deals. What I would add to that is I'm reducing my travel time, I'm reducing wait time, I'm reducing no-show time. If somebody doesn't show up on Zoom, so what? But if I drive an hour and somebody doesn't show up, I'm cranky. It's like you're dead to
really
me.
cranky.
So,
Yeah.
it's just easier. But the reality is, and I say this without John's prompting, it's not just 20% more deals you're closing. How much are you saving on first of all, as a salesperson, your time, but as a sales team, all of those expenses, and for me, I love virtual conferences.
Hmm.
Um, I love them as much, if not more, as in-person conferences because I can pick where I am, I can pick who I'm having conversations with, and I'm not exhausted from flying for several hours and clearing customs and things like that.
Yes.
I would argue if you show up with the intention to serve and to meet people and to find ways to help them, Zoom is way more effective. And, if you're looking at cost benefit, if you're buying the basic service, I don't even know what it is anymore. It's like $15 a month.
Yeah.
Um, that's parking for half a day. Well, actually, let's be honest. I'm in Edmonton. That's an hour for parking.
Yeah. San Francisco had the new record, I believe, for $100 for overnight parking.
Yeah. So just if you think about that, how many times have you plugged a meter or swiped your card in a meter? You can save a lot of time and energy. And like I said, it's pure efficiency because I can do back to back, and I don't have to drive to get to the next meeting, and I don't have to. Oh, sorry, John, I got to cut this off. I have to get in the car and hopefully get to the other place on time.
Yeah, Jeff, like in the real world, I did some crafty stuff. Like often I would stack my meetings at the same Starbucks.
Yeah.
So like, and sometimes I would have a meeting, I would like made at a Starbucks, and then I would start stacking the other meeting, like meet me at the same Starbucks. So like, I didn't move, they moved, right?
Yep.
But the virtual and Zoom type of thing, I tell people I have clocked 14, 16 meetings in a day. I don't necessarily recommend it, but I'm saying that the efficiency is there. Sometimes some of my salespeople have said too, like the culture is meant to be shorter
Yep.
too. So a lot of the meetings in this half hour range, the best part too is it's a half hour. It's kind of like dating. It's like, oh, if it's not a match, then we can move on. And if it is a match, then we're going to book an hour next time and we're really going to connect. And so I think there's so many efficiencies inside of that. But then there's just this part here too. Like you can turn sales into theater. And I think people are missing that. Like just Jeff's ability to change backgrounds instantly is not hard. You got to be prepared for it. but it's adding to his message. It says something, and I can tell you, Jeff, like again, 90% of the people that I meet don't have this, don't have it
Yep.
ready, right? They choose one, and then they stay on it all day long, as opposed to finding ways like saying like, here's a way that for me to communicate, my message, whatever that message is, and hopefully do it in a more memorable way. So,
Yeah.
what's been the greatest connection you made in the last 3 years, whether it was beneficial to your business or maybe just your personal life?
There's so many. I fear I'm gonna hurt somebody's feelings if I don't call them out. But I think my greatest connection has been this wonderful woman named Esther Deutsch,
Okay.
and Esther is a networker at such a high level. She's probably introduced me. I've lost track. I think I owe her a lifetime of something. But I think she's probably introduced me to about 500 people who a significant portion have become either clients or referral partners. And I think that's the magic of virtual meetings is you can meet so many amazing humans. My weekly addiction is I go see Janine for virtual coffee.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest thing is just these communities that have sprung up where you get diverse people from across different continents, different countries, different cultures. I just love showing up and meeting people. And on Janine's virtual coffee we've got people from three countries at least. I would not ever have thought that somehow I should do work in Peru. Now with Zoom, I can.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's fun. And Esther hosts this weekly group. It's called In This Together Roundtable. I've met so many people through that group, and these are successful people. And this is something other myth I want to bust. There's a lot of really successful people who have prioritized their networking, and they find that Zoom allows them to do that. I also am part of Bob Berg's Go Giver Success Alliance. Every week I get to hang out with Bob Berg, the godfather of the Go Giver movement, him and his co-author John David Mann. I meet some really amazing people.
I think that's the key too. A lot of us who are either business owners, thought leaders, things like that, you can build your community that is so much easier than before. Like before, you might meet them once a year at this in-person thing that, or at somebody else's conference. But here, you can create a community kind of I don't know if Rotary and all these other places, EO entrepreneurs organizations have discovered that if you keep just putting people together on a regular basis,
Yeah.
you will connect.
Yeah. Magic happens. I mean,
That
again,
right.
one of the pieces of WoW is build a community of your raving fans
Yes.
and let them, see what's behind the curtain, let them influence where you go in the future. People love to be part of the party. Nobody wants to clean up the party, but they all love to plan it and tell you what you should do. But the
No,
good
but
thing
you
with
know what?
Zoom is you don't need to clean up.
I'll add that. Well, I'll add the other piece too, though. That Jeff, right? That some of your closest raving fans actually like to set up and clean up.
Yeah.
They do want. They're like they are in that support, and I do it for other people all the time. In fact, actually, in this recent program, they were just having some AV problems. Like there was this amazing company. I'm going to give a shout out to this company. Right, Abstract Ice is making crystal clear ice that's engravable.
No way.
We could put your logo right in a cube of ice in a beverage, and they were doing a demo, and the video didn't play. And I just got, and I'm the new guy in the room, Jeff, right? So I'm like the new guy in the room, but I'm like, I can't help it now at this stage. It's like I'm sitting in the seat, right? 60 people in the room. Nobody's doing anything offer to help, right? And the AV team, bless their hearts, they just, I don't know, there was something set up. They knew that it wasn't working right. And I said, I really want to see your video. Do you mind if I get up and try and see if I can get it to play? And he goes, yeah, sure. I get up there less than 1 minute, right? I got the video to play, and this video is phenomenal. Imagine crystal clear ice. Ice so clear that you can see through. Has
That is amazing.
has nasturtium edible flowers in it. So it'll flavor your drink, actually become an edible portion of it. And of course, it's the slow-mo drop of this ice cube into water. And the marketing and the branding is like, oh man, this video nailed it. And they would have missed it. I would have missed it.
Yeah.
Everyone would have missed it. And I guess that helping your raving fans, you have a raving fan if they do stay there to clean up.
Yeah.
And because they just say like I want to help, right? So that's there. I just want to make sure that there's that indicator of engagement. That sometimes the real engagement is people do jobs which you don't think they want to do, like most people don't want to do, but they stay and do it, and they do
Yeah.
it because they want to feel like part of the community.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I can't stress enough. People want to belong. They want to feel part of what you're doing.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and Harley Davidson's my favorite brand because as far as I know, they're the only brand on the planet where people get their brand tattooed on their skin. That tells me that people just want to be part of that community.
Have you read a book called Belong?
I have not.
So Radha Agarwal created a community. It's like she loved dance parties, but didn't like the drug and alcohol culture. So she
Good.
created a series of morning dance parties.
I love it.
Like starts at 6 a.m. It would start with like yoga to stretch so you don't get injured, and then a full blown crazy dance party. And then you
Nice.
take a shower and go to work. And
That is a
she built this amazing community, and she shared her system for building a community with this word belong. And it actually came about because I think she was working a regular job and felt disconnected and started feeling, not a part of any community.
yeah.
And so she developed her own and then shared, like, this is how we did it.
I love that. So that's on my must-read list. So thank you.
Well, okay. So, and here's the funny part, right? 80% of their company revenue comes from sponsorship, not the attendees. The attendees get a pretty reduced price. So like I paid like 30, maybe $9 for a program, right? Jeff, have you seen or heard of the Stanley Cup, right, meme phenomenon that's going on?
No, I haven't.
Okay, this is a Stanley Cup.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking Stanley Cup in hockey, but
I
yes.
know that's what people say, but this right now is like the hottest millennial item or Gen X or Gen whatever, right?
Yeah.
Item that's like to have one of these. So Daybreaker got a sponsorship from Stanley because it was their target audience.
Oh, nice.
And this thing I looked on the website costs like somewhere between $40 and $60 retail. And every attendee got one.
Wow.
So it was like a brand activation event
Yeah.
on steroids.
And again, what was my word to describe that? Wow, right?
It was a wow, and again, it's my number one water bottle. Like I own, don't you? How many water bottles do you own, Jeff?
Too many is the short answer.
Right. So the hard part for everyone who's marketing is saying, "I want everyone to use my water bottle," and you think everyone's going to use your water bottle, but now people have this water bottle challenge. Like they got 100, like grocery bags. You got
Yeah.
100 of these disposable ones. So how do you make your bag stand out? Like that glass is on every single meeting that I'm on every single frigging day.
Yeah. I went to work at a company once and instead of giving everybody the generic company swag for their first day, I sat down at my new desk and I had an engraved mug. It was not a Stanley, but it was engraved with my name on it, and I was like, wow, that's
Customization.
really
Yeah.
special, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And again, if you're gonna hope this person is gonna go above and beyond and stay with you for years, I kind of liken WoW to a long-term relationship. They're not going to feel special if you're always looking at someone else, but if you find new ways to say, hey, you're important to me, they'll stay with you forever.
What's your latest way to make people feel important on a virtual or hybrid meeting, Jeff? Just
My
curious.
favorite, I really want to know, and this is a sincere question.
Mhm.
I like to ask who a good strategic partner is, who would be a good person that would bring them introductions and referrals. And usually that's a really fun way to start a conversation. The other part is I live up to it, and I make sure I always try to make one introduction first. It's a little bit of a game with me, John, and I feel like I've lost, but not really in a bad way, if I haven't made the first introduction.
Mm.
But I think that that's, when you listen to people and you hear them and you
Mhm.
say, oh, I know somebody. That is my favorite game on the planet, is who do you know? Who can I connect you with? And so to me, that's the best way to add value to somebody. And by the way, it's not always business. I
Sure.
had a client who had chronic pain and he was
Yeah.
like, sorry, Jeff, I'm slow. And I said, I know somebody who actually works with this condition. I introduced them and people go, why would you do that? What's in it for you? And I said, my client's no longer in pain. And guess what? When he doesn't feel the pain, he says, oh my God, Jeff did this for me.
Yeah. Infinite value, right?
Yeah,
Way more personal. Like, I think, again, I shared this, like, I try to do all this crafty social media stuff. And then my oldest son and his wife came back and said, oh, we're expecting, which makes me a grandfather. And then my social media completely blew up. It gets back to the part that no matter how crafty you're trying to trick people, that authenticity trumps perfection every single day, right? Authenticity.
absolutely. Yes.
Speaking of that, uh, I would love to know. I would really love to know then what do you view for the future? What's a wish or what's something that you view for the future, Jeff, for virtual or hybrid?
I honestly, my wish would be that people would stop wanting to get back to the way things were. So I think what we're going to see, especially with AI now, I think we're going to see more and more people transitioning their businesses over to virtual. I think they're going to want to try hybrid, but the reality is I envision people are going to read John's book and go, why the hell am I getting on a plane to go meet somebody when I can accomplish this? Save the trips for family time and fun time.
Hmm.
I think with all of the other tools and with virtual meetings, and, as we see more and more AI getting added in, I think that those who think about what they're doing, those who are deliberate in their customer experience, I think they're going to have a massive advantage over the other companies who are just trying to keep going the way they've been going. And I think if we all accept the fact that, the world was different pre-March 2020, the
Yeah.
world is different after 2023,
Yeah.
embrace virtual meetings. And at the very least, you're going to save some time. And like I said, start with an assumption or a hypothesis. There is so much power in virtual meetings, and I think people are just so used to the way things were. They're missing this golden opportunity. If you and I waited to connect until I could get to Seattle or you could come to Edmonton, that'd probably be months. And
Years maybe.
yeah, whereas now it's like, hey, how's next Monday look for you? And we both made it happen. So I want people to think about not what they've lost by the world changing, but what do they have to gain? Because literally it's limited only to what we can imagine.
Scheduling links too. Like if you don't have a Calendly, Microsoft has a product called Bookings for specifically for like I'm on a Microsoft Calendar, but whatever it is too. That too, I clocked. I get the research because I can actually download like all the meetings ever made. It's something like 4,000 meetings made over the last 3 years, Jeff, which is reducing all that back and forth of just this dumb part of the meeting, which is,
Yep.
hey, when are you free?
Yep.
And so that's another piece that I can really share that if you have not gotten on that train, get on it because it's been really, really valuable. With that, Jeff, I love that part. What if the people? Well, I do actually. I really want this one piece. Jeff, tell me the question you asked at the beginning again. Like, what's that opening question? I want to try and capture the words.
My question was, how might I recognize a good referral partner for you? And what that means is, where do you usually get your leads and referrals from? Because a lot of people underestimate how many leads or referrals they get. So I like to figure out, what is the audience, and I call them key strategic partners.
Yeah.
But how would I recognize somebody that I have to introduce to you so that both you and they thank me for it? And that's part of delivering wow is, if I can introduce you to somebody who becomes your next client, you're mildly grateful and you'll send me a thank you card. But if I introduce you to somebody who brings you your next 1,000 clients, you're going to love me forever, and we're going to figure out how to serve each other. So I always look for big wins rather than just, who do you serve? Because that, hopefully I know somebody, but if we talk about strategic partners or referral partners, that opens up the conversation and makes it fun.
Well, that's one of my big strategy lists this year, is to build better partners this year, right? People who can not just use me once, but work with me, over the course. Because again, that's the best way to develop a great relationship with that. All right, Jeff, if there's only one wow that you want people to remember from this conversation, this interview, what's that wow for you?
I think the wow would be, think about wow. How could you deliver wow? Because if you start to play that game, it opens up everything else. So how could you make your clients, prospects fall in love with you as a brand and turn them into raving fans? Honestly, nothing else matters until you figure that piece out.
Well, genius. Speaking of figure it out, make sure and click on Jeff's link if you are seeing it here on Facebook, LinkedIn, or a bunch of our friends. We put his LinkedIn profile there, and you can go find that and get a chance to meet Jeff too. You also have a podcast, right? And I hope to be featured on your podcast. Where do people find your podcast at?
Right now, the main place is our website. It's globalwellnesshq.com/podcast. We're also available anywhere you find podcasts, and we definitely share everything on our LinkedIn page as well. So we're B2B, so LinkedIn is our favorite place to be.
Genius. All right, Jeff, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, John.
All right, well, this is John Chen. We're just completing another episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with Jeff Borschowa. And amazing. Think about the wow. What's the wow in your business? And if you don't have a wow, doesn't matter what you do. Actually, we met a company that turns out they're the top in high-end luxury portable toilets. There's a wow. There's a wow in there somewhere. What was it? One of their bathrooms has a fireplace. That's wow. Yeah, wow. I got a wow from Jeff, right? So think about what your wow is. And if you don't have one, then really get one, right? So get one. Speaking of wow, hey, if you got a wow here, make sure and subscribe, share, like, and comment, no matter where you're at. If you want, you can go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online and you can get to the podcast, subscribe in any of the 13 beautiful places you love podcast. And we also just want to make sure that you think about October. The Engaging Conference is going hybrid this year, October 1st through the 3rd. You can get a free ticket if you go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON, but you can also attend by Zoom if you're one of our VIPs, and in person for a limited number of people. And if you want to see the future of hybrid, we want you to come see it here on October 1st through 3rd, either in Seattle or wherever you might be online. Hey, you want to be the next Jeff? Just go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, select interview, and you could be the next guest here on Engaging Virtual Meetings Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time. This is John Chen, the author of the Amazon #1 hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings. I personally want to say thank you for listening to the Engaging Virtual Meetings Podcast. It is my passion to help you eliminate bad virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so that you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with all of the latest ideas. Hey, I want to meet you. If you want to talk about a virtual meeting challenge, or if you want to be the next guest on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, just go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet. That's engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, MEET. MEET. and find your best time to meet up. Thank you, and I look forward to engaging with you online.